The Guardians of Peace banner features new units from Fire Emblem The Binding Blade. Featured on this banner is Larum, Perceval, Echidna, and Igrene. Igrene is our first red bow unit in the game, and while colored bows haven't made grand impressions so far, Igrene is definitely here to change some minds. Our instant 3 to 4 star unit this time is Chad. We'll talk more about him at the end of the video. Before that, let's discuss the stats, new skills and weapons, plus builds and playstyles for all our new units. First up, we have Larum, a colorless infantry dagger unit, and she offers her dancing abilities to support the team. Larum has 37 HP, 32 attack, 39 speed, 18 defense, and 30 resistance. Right off the bat, extremely high speed. 39 speed ties for highest base speed for all daggers, although I think Igrene is still potentially the fastest. 32 attack ain't bad either, especially with all that speed, so I like what Larum brings to the game. Her defensive stats are more slanted toward resistance, so be a little careful letting Larum fight physical damage units. Compared to Tethys from last banner, Larum is definitely more offensive, while Tethys is more defensive. Depending on what you want from a dancer, the two have different roles, so take your pick. For old skills, Larum of course has Dance. She also comes with Disarm Trap, which allows your dagger units to disable trap tiles in Aether Raids. A little strange on a dancer, but that's just more utility, and I believe Disarm Trap allows you to make attacks while also disabling the trap, so that is pretty cool. Disarm Trap has potential, but it's only on 2 limited time units, so happy to see it in the permanent pool. Larum brings us a new weapon, sort of. It's called the Dragon Slasher Plus. Bet you can't guess what this one does. Well, it's effective against dragons and disables both the units and the foe skills that change attack priority, aka this is Hardy Bearing. This is actually the same weapon as the Cloud Myogi Plus dagger, but that weapon is on a limited time unit. If you need help taking down those dragons that run Vantage, then this weapon is for you. Personally, I still think the Splashy Bucket is a better dragon killing weapon. It disables adaptive damage, so a dagger unit with low defense but high resistance will still be able to go toe to toe with distant counter dragons. For example, if Larum fights a full health dragon where the Hardy Bearing isn't doing much, then if she cannot kill the dragon in one shot, then she's susceptible to being one shot herself on the counterattack due to her really low defense. Dragon Slasher is more useful for finishing off dragons, while Splashy Bucket is better for killing them at full health if you can't one-shot them. Also worthwhile to consider that Hardy Bearing can stop desperation and works on any unit type, so Dragon Slasher has its uses outside of just countering only dragons. For a new C skill, Larum introduces Speed and Res Gap 3 at the start of the turn, grants Speed and Res plus 5 to the ally with the highest speed plus res total for 1 turn. Similar to the opening skills, but a bit more math involved. The thing about these gap buffs is that because it combines 2 stat totals, you can find some really weird combinations to spread those buffs to multiple allies. For example, you can have one ally with really high speed but low res, and then another ally with medium speed and resistance, and it's possible for those values to hit the same total. Not saying it's easy to set up, but for those willing to do some calculations, this could be a surprisingly strong buff. In terms of builds, it's pretty clear that Larum is trying to be a more offensive dancer. Very high base speed helps her get those follow-up attacks, and with Dragon Slasher, she's going to be really ready to take down some dragons. Some simple skills to use with her base kit include Death Blow, Darting Blow, and similar Sacred Seals. If you want another dagger, Barb Shuriken is there for reduced cooldown, and Larum can also use Flashing Blade for more cooldown reduction. Fury and Desperation, or just Desperation in place of Disarm Trap, will serve Larum nicely, and you got tons of classic builds for those. If you want to go all in on dragon killing, then there are these skills like Mystic Boost to get rid of adaptive damage, so that's pretty nice to have. You could also grab the Splashy Bucket, use Hardy Bearing, and you still use Disarm Trap, and you get 3 very nice abilities for Aether Raids. Not shown here is Sturdy Impact, since that grants plus 10 defense, and that can help reduce adaptive damage from being so potent. If you don't want to be so focused on killing, then throwing in some buffing skills is always good for any dancing support unit. Overall, Larum is pretty good if you want a high-speed dagger unit who can also dance allies. Having that dragon killing weapon on a colorless unit may also be something that you want, since you don't have to worry about color disadvantage. Second on the banner is Perceval. He's a Lance Cavalier, and boy, it's gonna seem like we're having some deja vu. For stats, Perceval has 38 HP, 32 attack, 37 speed, 20 defense, and 27 resistance. Perceval's got some pretty nice stats, pretty fast at 37 speed, and everything else is rather balanced. This is kind of important because, as we will discuss, Perceval isn't the first fast Lance Cavalier we've had this year. We'll come back to stats in a little bit. For own skills, Perceval has Luna as his special, attack and defense solo for plus 6 attack and defense when alone. He also has low attack and speed for some in-combat debuffs and buff neutralization. Very nice kit, and kinda similar to Sirius's kit, just replace attack and defense solo with attack and speed solo. Those similarities don't end there. Perceval has the prized lance, a 16-minute weapon with the slaying effect. At the start of combat, if the foe's HP equals 100%, then Perceval gets +4 to all stats, and he gains the guard effect, inflicting -1 special cooldown charge on the enemy per attack. I really like this weapon. Guard is always awesome to have and pairs nicely with a weapon that lowers your own cooldowns. The +4 to all stats is fantastic for a unit with some balanced stats, and Perceval can make use of all of these bonuses. So if you've been keeping track of new units, then you'll recognize that Perceval is extremely similar to Sirius from a couple banners back. He also has a slaying lance that grants +4 to all stats, a solo ace skill, and low attack and speed. Pretty similar builds, but the big difference comes down to stats. Perceval does not have the highest defense ever, but his resistance is much higher than Sirius. He won't get wrecked as bad when fighting dragons, not to mention the guard effect helps out a lot in today's special heavy meta. With his high speed, balanced defense and res, low attack and speed, guard, and extra stats, all of this means Perceval is going to be a very annoying unit to take down. We aren't done yet because Perceval also has Rouse, Defense, and Res 3. If the user starts the turn not adjacent to any allies, then they get +6 defense and resistance for 1 turn. Oh boy, this is a very nice self-buffing skill. This is like the one-man army C skill you want, and you just chuck it on any unit who is going to be off on their own, going to destroy the enemy team solo. With a solo A skill, Perceval just wants to be left alone, and he's going to get a lot of extra stats. So the longer I look at Perceval's base kit, the more disgustingly good it gets, with prized lance adding +4 to all stats, attack and defense solo, and Rouse defense and res, field buffs that's +10 attack, +4 speed, +16 defense, and +10 resistance. Low attack and speed inflicts -3 attack and speed on the enemy, but that's similar to getting +3 speed and another +3 defense and res. Being able to get rid of attack and speed field buffs also makes Perceval tougher to fight, and it's just a very nice skill for him. I really don't think Perceval needs a lot of changing. His kit is already very strong, and you got 2 skills that Cavaliers can actually use, so I really like that. For Sacred Seal, Perceval has a ton of options since he will probably be in the thick of things fighting off the enemy. Attack Smoke, Close Defense, Distant Defense, Renewal, Brazens, and any of these stand skills are just great for Perceval to survive the enemy phase. His res isn't that high, but compared to the other high attack or high speed Cavaliers, 27 resistance is amazing. I would maybe consider giving Perceval a distant counter if you want to use him in PvE content, but his damage would be a little low, so that's something to consider. Still, with the slaying effect on his lance, he can make up with low attack with spamming specials and follow-up attacks. I really like what Perceval brings, and the activation condition on Prize Lance isn't that bad. If you use Tabarin, then it's a similar situation. Overall, Perceval is a neat offensive Lance Cavalier with a better balance on defenses, and his base kit is super solid, so he does not need a lot of investment. Our third unit is Echidna. We got another infantry axe wielding hero, so it's a really good time if you want to build one. She has 45 HP, 34 attack, 36 speed, 30 defense, and 27 resistance. Not bad at all. Compared to Garrick from the last banner, Echidna sacrifices some HP and attack for more resistance. Another axe wielding infantry unit with some nice stats that can be tailored for offense or defense or a mix of both. For out skills, Echidna has Soul for some extra healing and Drive Attack too. That's a nice +3 attack for all her allies. For a weapon, Echidna brings us another new inheritable axe. The Rear Guard Plus is a 4-2-man axe that grants +7 defense when the enemy initiates combat. More axes to choose from is always nice. The Rear Guard Plus is our axe version of the Safeguard Sword or the Vanguard Lance, and it provides some nice enemy phase power. This axe isn't a bad option for Echidna, who only has 30 defense, although she can also opt for something more offensive like a slaying axe. We have a lot of high defense axe units in the game, so I don't think the Rear Guard is a huge game changer. When the res version of this weapon does get added, I do think that one's going to get a little more attention since patching up resistance is a little tougher. It's a neat new weapon, not bad. For A skill, Echidna has Brazen Speed and Resistance. At the start of combat, if the user is under 80% HP or equal to 80% HP, then they get +7 speed and res during combat. We continue to fill out the Brazen combos, and speed and res isn't that bad of a combo. Probably not the most popular combination out there, but if you want more speed and resistance, then it's there for you. Just like Garrick from the last banner, Echidna has a ridiculous amount of build variety. In fact, you could probably grab a dartboard, print out some skill icons, tape them to the board, throw darts at the board, and you'll probably end up with something useful. Good base speed, solid HP, attack, defense, and res means Echidna is free to run so many different builds. Her natural base kit is slated for defense, and that is totally fine. You can use Quick Riposte if you want, and then pick up your favorite enemy phase A skills or Sacred Seals. If you want to use her Brazen Speed and res with Rear Guard, you could run double Brazens, but this time with attack and defense for +7 all stats when on lowest HP. Combine them with Special Spiral and a healing special for continuous healing hits, and that could be a strange survivalist build. If you want more offensive options, you got the Slang Axe, Woe Gun, Fire Sweep Axe, Fearless Desperation, Wrath, Swift Sparrow, Darting Blow, the list goes on and on. I think a nice comparison for Echidna is that she's a slightly better Libra, more HP and speed with only a little less attack and res. She can definitely follow in his footsteps and can utilize any Libra builds you see out there. The popular 8th raid's tank build is Distant Counter, Null Seed Disrupt, and Attack Smoke. Assuming we get a demote for this banner, most people are thinking it's going to be Echidna, and I would agree. While Rear Guard and Brazen Speed and Res are new skills, both of them have similar skill types in the game already, and neither are really game breaking to me. The other demote candidate would be Larum, but she has a dragon killing weapon and Disarm Trap, which are both rare limited time skills only, plus the gap skills are still rather new, so I don't think she's going to demote because of that. If Echidna demotes, she's going to be a solid unit to invest in, basically another Libra, and there's nothing wrong with that. Our last 5-star on this banner is Igrene. Oh boy, we got ourselves a red bow unit, finally. Igrene is our first red archer and she's an infantry unit. Her stats include 42 HP, 37 attack, 37 speed, 26 defense, and 24 resistance. If you know who Legendary Alm is, then all you have to know is that Igrene has better base stats than Alm. I haven't checked boons, but just on base values alone, you get the idea. Igrene has the same legendary 37 attack and speed, same defense, and slightly better HP and resistance. We've waited a long time for a red bow, and boy, Igrene does not disappoint. For old skills, she's also very stacked. Blazing Wind as her special with Special Spiral is setting up for the super potent AoE special spam combo. She also has Pulse Smoke to mess up the enemy team's cooldowns by inflicting +1 cooldown on all foes within 2 spaces. This is a nasty kit already. Igrene's unique bow is the Guardian Bow, a 14 might slaying bow, and if Igrene's speed is higher than the enemy's, then Guardian Bow inflicts -5 attack, speed, and defense on the enemy during combat. Now, this is a weapon. As long as Igrene has 1 more speed than her opponent, she will get the speed follow-up, assuming no other interactions. The -5 defense means more damage, and the -5 attack means Igrene takes less damage. This is a stupidly good weapon for a unit with 37 attack and speed, plus some decent defense and res bulk. She makes use of every stat debuff, and that's not even the craziest part of her build. For A skill, Igrene introduces Life and Death 4. It grants +7 attack and speed, but inflicts -5 defense and resistance. A small upgrade, but an upgrade nonetheless. First, due to Guardian Bow's -5 attack debuff, that sort of negates Life and Death's -5 defense and res penalty. Igrene has a solid 42 HP, and with mid-20s defense and res, she should be able to take a hit or 2. She is a red unit though, so obviously you still have to be careful of blue enemies. Now for the offensive part, Life and Death 4 is perfect for Igrene and her AoE special Spiral build. It is the go-to A skill for this setup because AoE specials activate outside of combat, so things like Death Blow don't add extra damage. You want the flat stat boost from Life and Death or field buffs for maximum damage, and the blazing AoE specials have a 1.5 times multiplier, so the more attack you have, the better the scaling. I want to take some time to fully explain the playstyle of this build because it's very powerful. First, you must charge up Blazing Wind. Igrene has it on a 3 cooldown, so doubling a unit who can counter her gets this job done. Otherwise, use Quicken Pulse so that any 2 hits from Igrene charges it up, or place her in an Infantry Pulse team. This would be ideal since having it charged on turn 1 makes things much easier and it's super deadly. Once Blazing Wind is charged, initiate on some poor unit, blow them up with Blazing Wind's damage, then when the in-combat part starts, Igrene finishes them off with 1 hit. That 1 hit brings Blazing Wind down to a 2 cooldown, and after combat, Special Spiral fully recharges Blazing Wind. Congratulations, you have now started the AoE Spiral. This build is one of the most broken setups in the game, and it's why I use it on my Ophelia every week in 8th raids. It's super cheesy and only stopped by a really high defense or res to reduce the damage of the AoE special, or by Vantage. To stop Vantage, you use Hardy Bearing. Now there are other units who can use this build, but the reason Ophelia is one of the best mages for the job is because of the slaying effect on her tome that brings Blazing Wind down to 3 cooldown. Other mages have to run Heavy Blade or Flashing Blade for the extra cooldown, which means no Hardy Bearing, and while Vantage isn't the most popular B skill like it used to be, it's still something you have to encounter. Since Guardian Bow has that slaying effect, Igrene also doesn't need Heavy or Flashing Blade. Even with one of the scariest builds in the game, there is a big concern. The reason Ophelia and other mages are great AoE special spiral spammers is that they deal magic damage, and in general, higher defense units are more common. Igrene may have trouble getting enough damage from the AoE special to finish off her target in one hit afterwards. Bringing chill defense on an ally may be a good idea, and it's one reason I use Savage Blow on my Ophelia, since she can snipe another target first, deal some chip damage plus the AoE damage, and hopefully that's enough to finish off the enemy that's giving her trouble. Moving on, while I think this base kit is completely fine as it is, I do think Igrene can run other fun builds if you so desire. She can copy Legendary Alm with things like Sturdy Impact and No Follow-Up just to be annoying. I also think she will also be viable with close counters, since Guardian Bow is basically supplementing the extra stats. Use with low attack and speed, and you can stack up to -8 attack and speed on the enemy, which is kinda gross since it's an in-combat debuff. You can then use Attack Smoke for a -7 attack field debuff, which will stack with the -8 from before, so yeah, that's not a lot of fun to face. Also, you neutralize all attack and speed field buffs on the enemy, so it just becomes even harder to outspeed Igrene, especially if she has her own speed buffs. Overall, I think Igrene has been put in an extremely good spot. I know colored bows have not had a huge breakthrough, but I do think Igrene will succeed. If there wasn't a Sacred Stones banner going on right now, I would probably have tried to get her just because I think she has great potential. Last thing we have to talk about is our instant 3 to 4 star unit, Chad. Chad is also actually being featured on the Tempest Trials banner as a featured 5-star unit, so if you really want him, that's the best chance to get him. Chad is another infantry dagger unit with 45 HP, 30 attack, 37 speed, 26 defense, and 23 resistance. 30 attack and 37 speed isn't bad, but there are better offensive daggers out there, including Larum. Chad's outstanding trait is his very high HP. 45 HP ties with Halloween Dozla for highest HP for all dagger units, and that's just extremely good for any ranged unit in general. His defense and res aren't anything special, but with high HP you can have some fun with skills like Panic Ploy, or just being able to avoid panic from the enemy. For skills, Chad has the Rogue Dagger Plus. It inflicts -6 defense and res on the enemy and foes within 2 spaces, but it also buffs Chad and his allies with +6 defense and res. Pretty darn annoying should Chad get a free hit in. His assist skill is Drawback, which is fine. He has Escape Route as his B skill, and then Speed Smoke as his C skill. It's available at 4 stars, and this is really awesome since an AoE -7 speed debuff can be quite powerful. A lot of units love Attack Smoke in the C slot, but Speed Smoke can also be useful, and it's nice to see in the 3 to 4 star pool. Since we talked so much about Igrene, I'm not going to cover specific skill options for Chad, so sorry about that. I will say that I think his best usage will be taking advantage of that nice HP stat line. He can use things like Fury or Brazen skills and have more wiggle room to work with. It's not the highest HP ever, but Chad can definitely run things like Infantry Pulse for his teammates or Panic Ploy if you want to mess up the enemy. With no unique dagger, I don't think Chad is going to set the dagger class on its head, but I think he's fine for being that 3 to 4 star unit on the banner. Colorless continues to get more and more enticing for skill fodder. That's it for this banner breakdown. Sorry for rambling a ton, but I think this banner is rather strong and definitely a lot of fun. If you don't plan to summon for anyone, then the upcoming Tempest Trials unit is Brunya. We'll talk about her in a couple more days, and she actually has a unique weapon, so at least we'll get to talk about something a bit more interesting. Let me know your thoughts on this banner in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.